So welcome to Thursday, and this is where we're going to do that altered media project where we talk about a movie or franchise that has all of these versions of it that you never got to see. And today we're going to be talking about the Planet of the Apes. We all know about the original Planet of the Apes, and we all know about the Tim Burton one, I'm sure. And then you have the rise of the Planet of the Apes, which kicked off this entire new franchise and this entire new Planet of the Apes craze. Well, it could have gone a lot different. A lot different. So in Rise of Planet of the Apes, Caesar goes from lab experiment to revolutionary leader, and man succumbs to a fatal virus. However, that was not always the way the movie was envisioned. The movie was primarily told from Caesar's point of view. The husband and wife writing duo of Silver and Jaffa pitched the idea of the Planet of the Apes reboot to 20th Century Fox in 2026. And at that time, Fox had no plans to bring back Planet of the Apes. Why would they? This was not a franchise that anyone was really thinking about. And then after the Tim Burton one, why would anybody even want to continue it? Now, I like the Tim Burton one, and I'm sure a lot of you might have a soft spot for the Tim Burton one as well. However, the original film franchise is still a classic for a reason. So now you get into this one, where the apes are going to look that much more realistic. Now you're kind of getting into, how did this happen? So, of course, how it happens is exactly like that. The human virus, the apes that had been sort of these experiments rising up, and they ultimately become the dominant species on the planet at the end of the movie, and that's that. And according to Jaffa, and I don't know if I'm saying the name right, so if I'm not, just bear with me, I apologize. The idea came together from several different sources and bits I'd been working on and staring at for a long time. One of which was the amount of people in our country that are raising chimps and primates in their homes, some as pets, but many as children. I've done a lot of research for other projects about genetic engineering. And then I had been reading a lot of accounts of people who had been attacked by their own chimpanzees after having raised them. So a lot of those ideas were just sitting there. Then it kind of became the idea for Planet of the Apes. So basically the version we got still kind of centered on Will, played by James Franco, struggling with his staff at his labs to develop a retrovirus that could cure Alzheimer's, especially since Will's dad, played by John Lithgow, had this. So now he's trying to cure this disease, and he accidentally creates a pandemic that wipes out most of humankind. But Will had developed a close bond with his most successful test subject, which was Caesar, and he takes him home. And Caesar kind of gets smarter from this. This is where Caesar's origin comes into play. So then it took 3 to 4 drafts to lock in on that particular subplot, but the core story remained the same. Only what Will was working on and some of what Caesar was rebelling against would change. In some of the earlier drafts, a more sinister Will was using apes to develop a drug that could make humans smarter. And an early draft of Caesar, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, to which writer Jamie Moss contributed, also included more Easter eggs connecting the movie to the 1968 original. Namely, Rise would actually pepper in fictional TV news footage, chronicling the launch of the 1968 films Icarus, the same spaceship that Taylor crashes right on the Planet of the Apes. In the theatrical release, there is only one mention of Icarus by a news broadcast. Now, in 2008, it was announced that writer-director Scott Frank of The Queen's Gambit and the movie Out of Sight was set to direct this movie, now titled Caesar. And Silver and Jaffa worked on a draft and a half, with Frank, before this rewrite, took the movie and its main character in a darker direction. That's right, it kind of went into a darker direction than the way it was going to go. Now, I like the idea that they were going to sort of give us things from the past, kind of incorporate them in, but the problem with that is that this was not a story that took place in the past, and I guess you could say that even the original film is supposed to take place in the future, so you could kind of suspend belief there a little bit and say, yeah, maybe, just maybe, everything would work out, and they could use that and do these little Easter eggs, and it would just be fine. But if you look at the Tim Burton one, you actually get this thing where it did seem to modernize it a whole lot. So in modernizing it, I kind of think some of that wasn't needed. So I'm a little bit glad that we only got that brief mention in the final film. Now, this darker take is something to think about. The film would not feature talking monkeys and will not end with the chimpanzees running wild in the streets and taking over the world, Frank told the now defunct movie website Chud in 2010. In Frank's version of the movie, it was in fact a hard science fiction film about genetic engineering and would give Caesar an increasingly anti-human vendetta. He would appear a lot less of a Moses type of figure and kind of become a bit more of this kind of bad guy, I guess. But they saw him still as the hero, kind of saying that he would be this Spartacus type of figure. Okay, so that's still kind of dark, and that doesn't really bode well for people who want to like the character of Caesar. Then Caesar would grow tired of the inhumanity of his human captors. As a result of bearing witness to all of this cruelty, Caesar would then lead this uprising. Now, according to Silver and Jaffa, this take on Caesar would have given him sort of this more Godfather-like approach. Michael of The Godfather, give him that type of story arc. And I would have been okay with that, I suppose, but I'm kind of glad it went the way it did. In this version, John Lithgow's character did not exist. It was Will and his wife. Caesar would imprison his adoptive parents in anger, and it would spark this ape revolution. Caesar's desire for revenge appealed to Frank's vision of the character. He wanted audiences to come to really feel for this ape, even as the final act is making him take actions that may be hard for the audiences to agree with. It did provide too far out aside from what the execs wanted from this big budget movie. And ultimately, Frank did leave the project, and Jaffa and Silver returned to help director Rupert Wyatt execute the film. Script doctor Mark Bomback was then hired, and he would also help to write Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and also worked on the script. Now, of course, with Jaffa and Silver back on board, most of their original story remained attached. Outside of course, more Icarus Easter eggs, there are only 3 significant scenes that were missing from the final cut. The first is an image that Silver and Jaffa had in all of the versions of the film that they did, and that is the 2-year-old Caesar playing on a swing set. The ape would be tethered, but he could get high enough to swing and observe 2 young boys playing next door. Enjoying freedom Caesar, of course, couldn't have. The second scene is an extended version of the film's ending, as we follow Will's neighbor, a very sick commercial airliner pilot named Captain Hunsaker. And we follow him to the airport onto a passenger plane. The plane takes off with its pilot becoming the patient zero of this new flu. And then we cut to this scene where Caesar and his friends look on from the trees in this sort of menacing, I guess, way, and kind of telling us what's going to occur in the future. So that would have been a very different ending. And the scene with Caesar on the swing set, I think that would have been an adorable way to go. I could actually see that happening, and I could see people feeling sad that Caesar can't have the same freedom to play as those kids could. That he was kind of stuck where he was, unable to go and have fun with other kids. Because at that point, wouldn't Caesar have just thought he was another kid? The third scene that would be cut would have delivered this callback to the 1968 original ending. In a 2014 interview, Rise's storyboard artist Brian Cunningham told Cineblend Rise's original ending would find an older, more tattooed Caesar climbing up a rusty spiral staircase through a haze of smoke and rain, and when Caesar reaches a landing and looks out over the apocalyptic remains of Manhattan, he watches the city burn from the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, so that would have been kind of cool. That would have been something to see. But that ultimately didn't happen. And maybe the movie's better for it, because actually Rise's ending really did pay off. It sort of made it so that the rest of the sequels would fall into place exactly the way they did. So of course this film is never going to outshine the original. The original is a classic for a reason. But when you look at it, this film actually did spark a lot of interest and brought the Planet of the Apes back in a big way. And it ultimately used the effects that could be used today. And I think that when you're looking at it that way, there's still more stories to be told from this Planet of the Apes. Ultimately, they could even get into remaking some of the Planet of the Apes movies from the past with this new technology, and maybe they change things up a bit. But I would hope that if they did that, they would keep those movies largely the same, just with this new technology in place. Sure, have the apes wear clothes, but that technology should remain the same. That's what I think about it. But I want to hear from you guys. Were you shocked by the changes that this movie went through? Did it surprise you at all? Would you like to have seen that original ending? Would you like to have seen some of the scenes going back into it? Would you have liked to see that darker take or anything else that we talked about here today? Whatever you're thinking, there's no wrong answer. I definitely want to hear from you guys, and make sure you share this video with all of your friends so that we can hear from them as well. If you like positive content, you know the routine. Go ahead and hit that like button so that you tell the algorithm you like people talking positive about the fandoms you love. And if you like our content personally, yeah, you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell as well, so you never miss a single video we do, because friends, at the end of the day, I know it and you know it. Fandom is family.